Yo, welcome to the Table Talk podcast, where we sit down, pull up a chair, and we get started. This podcast is designed to provide you packed full of information to help you with your training, nutrition, lifestyle, and well-being, where we interview myself through case studies to give you lifetime experience. And then we also interview high-performing individuals or other career-focused people who are looking to make changes in their lifestyle, training, nutrition, and well-being. So let's pull up that chair and let's go.
So today, I'm so excited about this session. It came about when my neighbour crossed over to my door and asked me, what do I do to prevent burnout? And we had a little bit of a chat right there and then, and I listed some things that I do for myself nowadays. But this question kind of lingered in my head and it made me wonder, what do my coaches do? So I got my most valuable people and I suggested, let's do this together. And that's why we're here. And we're really just sharing our own experiences and what we've learned so that you guys take what you want, take what you need and apply it to your own circumstances. Hopefully you'll learn a few gems as well along the way. So the definition of burnout, when I looked it up on Google, it came up as the failure of an electrical device or component throughout overheating. And this made me wonder how I can relate to the human body. And even with it just saying electrical device, well, our nerve cells actually generate electrical signals. So through overheating, through overuse of our nervous system, we experience this kind of a failure. Or one of the other things that I really loved sharing in the lead up to this webinar was the car analogy. You may have seen, I wrote a little spiel. Imagine that you're in the middle of the desert and you're in a car that's idling and you suddenly put down the accelerator as hard as you can and you're speeding through the desert and now the fuel is out, the water is out, and things are going to start to break down physically and for us humans mentally. When we're feeling burnt out, we have poor judgment and we lash out at people. So now we're also damaging our relationships as well. It's really interesting when I looked up the World Health Organization, how they define burnout. And they specifically say that burnout is related to the occupational setting. And they say that it doesn't actually relate to other areas of our life. I think we can actually debate this a little bit. I would say perhaps it starts in the occupational setting, but it definitely spills over to other areas of our life. That is what burnout means to me. And it's also interesting that since 2017, 9 European countries actually classify burnout as a medical disorder. No other places actually recognize it as a medical disorder. So already we're seeing some discrepancies in what burnout means and the definition of it. So it gets very hard. Then how do we prevent burnout and how do we set up even policy to help people? So today we will, I'm going to be sharing a personal story of my personal story of how I experienced burnout. And then the coaches will also, I'll introduce my coaches and they'll share a little bit of that about their experiences. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ozakovic and I'm the founder of New Fit Wellness. I'm a dietitian and a wellness coach. I'm very passionate about helping people be their best, healthiest self, helping them feel very comfortable and confident in their own body. And I do this through the belief that all health begins in the gut. And I talk about the 6 pillars to wellness, and those are my personal values as well, which I practice what I preach. And my practice is actually based on the fact that I did go through all these struggles as well. But I recognize that what works for me might not work for you. So I'm here to encourage trial and error and correction so that you can find what works for you, what's going to be successful. I'm really big on encouraging self-discovery, self-compassion, and forgiveness. so that we can learn from our mistakes, learn from our experiences, like our burnout experiences, and move forward with those learnings. So, burnout. I recall experiencing burnout twice, and I'm going to call the third time an almost burnout. And you'll understand why in a bit. So both times that I experienced burnout, it was in my early 20s and I was at uni. The first time was mid-2015, after 2.5 years of studying nutrition and dietetics at University of Wollongong. So at that time in my life, my mum had just gone overseas to spend 3 months on a working holiday, fixing up the house. And my two brothers were working with my dad on the building site, typical Gibrockers, typical wogs building site. And we also had my brother's wife and my niece and mum was overseas. So with mum going overseas, I put my hand up and I decided I was going to take on more responsibility. So I was already studying at uni, 2.5 years. So I was doing assignments, exams. Nutrition and dietetics is very clinical, very hard subjects. I was working for my dad in the office because he had his own business that my brothers were working with him. So I was doing the invoices, the quotes, the emails, backwards and forwards, whenever. It could be at any time of day or night. Absolutely. If you know the building site and project managers, there is no time off for them, apparently. And then with mum going overseas, I also decided, you know what, mum, I'm going to help you out and I'm going to pick up your work, because she was a caregiver. So she actually cared for elderly and she did a bit of cleaning work as well. So I was like, I'll take on your private clients. So now I was also caregiving and cleaning and babysitting at times as well. And I was maintaining the household. I was cooking and cleaning, doing the laundry, making sure the boys were well fed so that they could go to work the next day. A very typical scenario. How many hours in your day? I did not stop. So it was go to work in the morning for my mum's clients, work on anything in the emails, study when you can, make sure you're cleaning the house. It's got to the point where and again, this is one of those signs of burnout, was I was getting obsessive about the cleaning. And I was moving like a 50-kilo fridge by myself to get behind it. A little bit excessive. But at that time, I couldn't see it. So the moment I did see it was this one evening that I was sitting on the couch and I was watching TV. It may have been 11 p.m. at night, which is unusual for me as well. And this couch has like an arm rest that you can lift up. And this was mum's spot. Mum loves this couch. It was actually mum and Anna's spot because my niece Anna used to curl up with my mum in this spot. But late at night, mum would sit there, watch TV and kind of de-stress from her day and maybe eat some chocolates and cookies and hide it in the armrest. So suddenly I found myself in mum's spot, watching TV late in the evening and hiding some chocolates and cookies in this armrest. So this is happening, and I had like this out-of-body experience moment of, this is not me. What's going on? What am I turning into? And I realized then, I took the time to reflect, and what burnout looks like for me is staying up late, over-caffeinating. My gym sessions became inconsistent. I was still going, but very inconsistently. I started putting on weight because I was eating some other foods, but also I now looking backwards can see that the weight is also me holding on to the stress. I started cancelling. I started cancelling on my mum's clients. I started being inconsistent there as well. I started hiding. I started withdrawing. I was not comfortable. I started putting on a little bit of weight and I wasn't comfortable how my clothes were fitting, and I was just hiding more and more. And I remember just feeling sad. I was not the happy, bubbly Kathy that most of you know me as. My enthusiasm had just gone. There was this feeling of apathy, just nothingness. There was tension in my shoulders and my neck a lot, and I felt weighed down and heavy. And the most important thing that I realized looking back is the self-talk that I had. I was telling myself, I have to do this. I have to clean the house. I have to do the washing. I have to cook for the boys. I have to look after mum's clients. I have to study for uni. And I kept telling myself, if I don't do it, no one else will. So I have to. When I realized this and I had this aha moment, I knew something had to change. So in order for me to heal from this burnout, I first had to tell my dad that I want to take a gap year from uni. And my dad and I didn't have the relationship that we have today. It was very turbulent. I was working for him in the office, and his very typical Croatian background. And I think it took me a good while to actually get myself together and tell him, I want to take a gap year. I need this for myself. Like, this is something that I said, I need this. And he had his outburst and he said things along the lines of, what are you going to put off uni for? You're just putting off a year of work. You're probably never going to go back, and all these things, having his own doubts. Like, I can see now that was his fear. Whereas for me, it was never a question of going back. It was, I just need time to myself to heal and figure out what I need to do next. So I let him have his tantrum and I persisted with, I'm taking a gap year, contacted the uni. As soon as they put that gap year in place, it was a giant weight lifted off my shoulders, because I knew I can now look what's next. What can I change next to help me really get back to who I know myself to be? So the pressure of study was taken off. And this is when I actually drew upon my skills from, and some of you may not know this, but I come from a background of having an eating disorder. And I got down to a very skinny lightweight by restricting, obsessively counting calories and obsessively doing things. But in this time, I was actually able to draw on my skills of discipline and draw on the skills that I learned from nutrition and dietetics, the 1 or 2 subjects that I had by now, because it was all science, chemistry, anatomy. I was able to use the knowledge I had to date in order to get myself back into routine and structure and keep myself on track. I also set myself a goal, and I think this is really important. My best friend at the time was actually studying in Paris, and I decided, I'm traveling to Europe. I'm going to go see her. So now all of a sudden I had something to work towards. I was getting up. I was taking care of mum's clients. I was going to work. I was working for my dad in the office. I was saving money so that I could go overseas. And with structure and routine, my gym workouts became more consistent. I started feeling better and better in myself. I booked myself more regular psychology sessions. So I was hearing myself talk. I had that sounding board. And I kept myself going. And also I did more of the things. This is the year, that gap year was the most important year, I say, setting me up for the next 7 years of my life. This is the year that I discovered what brought me joy and happiness. This is the year that I discovered my bushwalks, my dancing, the consistency in the gym and getting stronger. this is the year that I discovered all these things. Like, I didn't know any of that. And perhaps that is the biggest blessing that I got out of having gone through a burnout like that. So now I was operating from a place of I want to rather than I have to. I want to go to the gym to get stronger. I want to go take care of mum's clients because it makes me feel good. I want to go to work because I'm saving money to go to Europe. I want to feed my body healthy food because it makes me feel better. I'm more productive. I'm more confident to go do what I want to do. So I was really chasing the feel-good chemicals now. So that was healing from the first burnout. And then I went back to uni and I finished third year and went into fourth year, which was very intensive prac work in the hospital setting. I spent 12 weeks working in hospitals on the renal ward with people with kidney disease. I saw a lot of disease, and this was progressively weighing me down again. And as I was trying to finish my degree, I was a bit heartbroken as well. And it was a very similar pattern of slowly going from I want to I have to. I have to finish my degree. I have to go do this. I have to show up. I have to work for my dad in the office still. I have to balance all of this. I actually needed an extra 2 months to finish my degree, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to graduate with my friends because of that. I ended up graduating with them, but I felt very different. I noticed that. When everybody was writing resumes and applying for jobs, I did not want to see a computer. I did not want to see a resume. I did not want to see a job interview. Everybody was jumping into working in hospitals now. I could not imagine. I just wanted to hibernate. Now, the third time that I almost burnt out, I call it an almost burnout. I felt very similar. I was in a committed relationship at the time. I started picking up more and more responsibility again, the same sort of a pattern of picking up responsibility and saying, I have to do this because if I don't do this, it's not going to get done. Nobody else was going to do it. I started working, and I was working 5 to 6 different jobs, 7 days a week. And I had just spread myself a lot, divided myself across these jobs, and I really didn't know what was my purpose, what do I want to focus on, and how am I going to get there? I didn't know these things. It was all a blur. And that almost burnout cost me my relationship. It did. I became what I didn't want to become, a workaholic. So
really just want to acknowledge you, Kathy, for sharing as you take a moment. Thank you for your vulnerability here with us and your openness and honesty.
Thanks, Paula. So looking back, I can clearly see now that burnout for me looks very slow, very sluggish, over-caffeinated, overstimulated. My sleep suffers. I feel very heavy. I feel a lack of motivation. I feel sad. The sound is what is most important to me. The story that I'm telling myself, I have to, versus I want to. That's what burnout sounds like to me. I have to do this. There's a lot of avoidance. There's a lot of judgment and shame and withdrawal within myself about myself. To heal and prevent burnout nowadays, I do more of the things that bring me joy and happiness. And these things, they actually align with those 6 pillars to wellness that I preach about. Nutrition, I have routines. I have structure and routine around My nutrition, when I go grocery shopping once a week, my meal prep Mondays, my easy options for when maybe I'm going to be too lazy to cook, so I have a few sachet soups and a few other things that are easily put in the microwave. My gym, my movement, training 4 to 5 times a week, having my programs done by Karl, so I've outsourced it so I don't have to think about it. And more recently now, every 20 to 25 weeks, I take 4 weeks break to do what I want to do. Do I want to go do Pilates? Do I want to go climb mountains? I give myself that flexibility. And then when I get back into the program, I'm like, why did I take the break anyway? But that's, in hindsight, like I needed it. I did need it at the time. It was great. Now I've got this big burst of motivation again. All about nature and the bushwalks, grounding, earthing, light therapy, getting out onto sunshine, nurturing myself with saunas and skincare, which I did today in preparation for this webinar, journaling and meditation. And I have my little Paula taught me this a little bit. It's turned me into, what do you call it? I love doing my burning rituals at the beach. I love just digging a hole in the sand and burning some of those stuff that I want to let go of. I will journal and write down my thoughts, and then you know what? Those thoughts are just thoughts. They're not me, and I can let that go. And then there's also the social aspect. Cafes. I love cafes, even if I'm not drinking coffee at the time. It's the atmosphere. It's surrounding myself with that buzz to get that social aspect where, like I said, one of my signs is withdrawing. One of my signs is hibernating. So I make sure that at least once a week or once a fortnight, I get myself out there in a cafe and do some work there. I ask myself, what am I working towards? What's my goal? What am I working towards? I'm constantly reminding myself of my vision to stay motivated. So it's a towards motivation. I really want to highlight it's a towards motivation, towards my vision, rather than running away from something. What am I working towards? Who is helping me grow or what? So looking at my audibles, looking at who's in my corner, who's my support system, who is my sounding board. And I'm a big believer that you will have the same experience over and over again until you've learnt the lesson. It may look differently, may have different faces, it may be in a different city, but just like I gave you 2 very clear examples of burnout and then the almost burnout, the same pattern was happening. But with this last almost burnout, when I was in that committed relationship, my biggest breakthrough and my biggest lesson came when I met Karl, Paula, and David. And that was the first time that a high achiever who had been getting over 90% at uni for the first 2.5 years, that was the first time that I had actually admitted to myself that A, I don't know everything, and B, I'm not meant to do everything alone. So that's when I started to work with Karl first, and what I've really learnt from my coaches, and just briefly one sentence from Karl, I've really learnt that tracking builds awareness. When you track your sleep, when you track your food, when you track your gym workouts, when you track how strong you're getting, you are building awareness of those patterns. Now, we loosely track my weight nowadays, and it will vary between 70 and 75. And we know exactly how stressed Kathy is. I'll drop 3 kilos in a day if my nervous system is happy. From David, I've really learned to ask myself, is this uplifting me or is this weighing me down? Is this uplifting me or is this weighing me down? Do more of the things that are uplifting. And from Paula, I have learned that you always have a choice. And if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Thank you so much for listening to me. Are there any questions, Paula? Were there any questions?
Not yet. Not yet. Everyone's just like really feeling it and acknowledging and agreeing and resonating. Kathy, awesome share. Thank you for sharing such a broad range of your trajectory and your experiences with burnout and what didn't work, what led you there, and also what's helped. Opportunity now, guys, if you've got any questions, if there's something else you want to know, or perhaps something specific that you're like, oh, I think Kathy has an answer that could help me. Now's your time to jump into the chat, type it out so we can ensure that you're fully supported.
If there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Karl to the stage. So I call Karl my fitness coach, and I've been working with him for just over 2 years now. I'm a dietitian and a wellness coach. I have PT qualifications as well, personal training. So like, why the hell would I get Karl why would I work with Karl? Why? Well, Karl is much more than just a personal trainer, which is why I call him my fitness coach. He has loads and stacks of knowledge in the fitness industry, much more than me. That's what he does. He has more knowledge about aligning the body, preventing injuries, about rehabilitation. The main reason my recent surgery went so well was this man, Karl Mckenna. He's getting all the awards from the surgeon as well for that. And he has really spent a lot of time into making sure that he knows and he can answer questions. And if he doesn't know the answer, he will research it. And I think that over the last kind of 2 and a bit years that we've really learned from each other and seen each other grow. I love what he's doing at Vitruvian Health. He drives the education and mentoring component for all the Vitruvian Health trainers and clients. And I can't emphasize enough how much that education section, that drive of the education that's what got me in so much, seeing how much he wants to grow and he wants his people to grow with him as well. And it's no cookie cutter approach. There is no cookie cutter approach at any stage with Karl. I've always felt like an individual. He tailors it to me. And we've had so much fun creating my programs as well, haven't we, Karl? And he's got his blue light blocking glasses. So I'm going to put on mine as well to match. And I'm going to let Karl take the stage now. Let us know what burnout means to you and what did that look like?
Thanks, Kathy. What does burnout look like to me? Well, before last week, I would have told you it's a misalignment of your mission. So it's really not listening to that internal voice in yourself and letting it break you down. So, but after last weekend, because I attended an event on this, it was really cool to hear someone else, and it was really a misalignment in your purpose and yourself. So where your purpose and where you want to go to where you are, and there's a gap there. And so the misalignment is really you're either constantly always looking forward or you're constantly always looking back, and you forget yourself. Which I was like, that was really interesting, because there are times where, through most of the stories or through all our journeys, some of us aren't looking after our health, but, we're killing it in life, we're killing it at work and our career, and we're just like, we can wait, and we're going forward. But then there are other people that are, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm training 6-7 times a day. I'm on 1,200 calories. I'm totally fine. This is great. And then it's only till like later on, you're like, oh, oops, probably should have focused on that. So yeah, I've retweaked it to be, it's a misalignment with your purpose, but also yourself, which is the physical body, and then like that emotional, mental body. And if the two of them work well together, well, then It's exponential.
Mhm. So can you describe for us a time in your life when you went through burnout?
Oh, rather not, but yeah. So my first one, there are two that kind of resonate with the burnout, which was the first one was, and this speaks to the purpose. So just after I finished high school, like I was a total failure. I always got 49%, and I really was like, "Ugh." And there was this one guy that rubbed me the wrong way. He was like, "Oh, you're only in this class to eat." And I was like, "All right, stuff you. I'm going to prove you wrong." And so I really committed myself to like doing well in high school. So my last year got 77% was my lowest mark, and I got a band 6, which I was like, "Oh my God." So from a complete failure to always then doing really well. I then continued to be like really driven because I studied to be commercial cookery, so chef. I worked in the fitness industry. I worked as a baker. Worked in a black shop Thursday nights. So literally went all out because literally this one guy rubbed me the wrong way, thinking like I wasn't going to be good enough. And I was like, "I'm going to prove you wrong." So I became chef, baker, trainer, and then black shop. Got rid of the black shop so I could spend more time on everything else. So pretty much made people fat, and then I trained them. And because I was quite focused on excelling, I had this piece of paper, and it was literally, and it's really funny, there's a piece of paper right in front of me, which is literally like lines, just lines. And so there was 30 lines to each page, and I was like, I'm going to fill that up. And so I got 30 clients, and then but on the week I got 31. I was like, got another piece of paper. I got to fill that piece of paper. So every week I was just doing more, and I got to about 120 clients a week. But at the same time, I would work as a baker in the kitchen from probably 3 a.m. making breads, pizzas, pies. Then I go to the gym all day, and then I would go to the kitchen about 5 o'clock at night, clean, cook till about 11. Then I would go home, fall asleep. And I did this for about a year, like on and off. And one thing that I know, which is what I resonate with Kathy, is like I was snacking a lot. I was eating every 2-3 hours. It's because the pros did it. They ate every 2-3 hours, a bit of protein, carbs, but it wasn't very nutrient dense. So it didn't have the vitamins, the minerals. It was just, pack of chips with protein bar. Super nutritious. So obviously, and then I remember in the kitchen, in the far right-hand corner, in the back of the shelf, there were these white chocolate truffles. Oh, so good. So I did this for about a year, and Tuesdays and Thursdays I would also travel to go to college. And it was probably about a year in, about 3-4 hours of sleep. I remember I was bench pressing one day, jacked my back, went and saw the car, racked the bar, I couldn't get up. I was like, shit, I've done something. So I went and saw a chiro, fixed me up. Great, keep going. So we're in a year, sleeping 3-4 hours. And for those that are wondering, I preach sleeping 7 to 9 hours, so 8 hours. So big disparity there. And yeah, I was good. So I'm like, cool, I'll put this chiro guy in, he'll be fine. I've got this pain, fix me up. Cool, off I go. It's do your exercises. Nah, I don't have time for that. So keep going. Keep doing the baking, keep doing the training, and then doing the exercise, and then commercial cookery. Oh man, my weight's gone up. I'll probably just train a bit more. So cram more in, fit more in. And probably about a year and a half in, I was on a train and I was just exhausted. I was tired, but I had to keep going. It was also about the time that I finished, I was now doing a lot more in the baker. I was close to finish. It was close to finishing, or I had finished, collect Cert 3, Cert 4 for commercial cookery. And then I crashed on the train. And the trains, you've got you enter the door, there's a big couch or seat row of chairs, and then you go upstairs and downstairs. And I went straight to the big disabled chairs because I could stretch out on it. And I crashed. And literally from the city to Barara, which is about an hour, I slept. And it was about Hornsby, so 45 minutes in. So people have walked past me, and 45 minutes in, remember 3 pregnant women with kids, prams. Disabled, you should look after the disabled, pregnant women aren't disabled, but pregnant ladies. And they walked up to me and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I see prams, they've got children, the kids are running around, and they're pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I was gutted, livid. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like jumped up, like, please take a seat. They're like, no. Like, you okay? Like, you're right. I was like, oh no, yeah. And I got off the train and I realized it was the horn thing. I was like, oh shit. Quickly got back on, ran down, and then just sat down and was like, oh, this is really embarrassing. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was literally like, oh my God, I can't do this. So, and I was also faced with, so it's all or nothing personality that you've probably gathered right now. And if you haven't, of course, thank you. But I literally then went, right, I need to make a decision. I need to be a chef or I need to be a trainer. I wasn't thinking to the future, like I wanted to help change people's lives. I'll help them. I was like, I just need to make a change. And I remember my PT boss was like, whatever you need, we'll get it done. Like, you've got 120 people, holy crap. Like, we'll help these people to continue their health and fitness. I was like, oh my God, like, yes, we have to help these people. My chef was like, dude, I don't fucking care. You need to make a choice. I need someone. I was like, oh, well, this is a pretty no-brainer. Why? It's really happy, but I now had probably an extra 40, 50 hours. So I wasn't working the chef anymore. Well, guess what I did? I did more baking. I trained more. I started doing classes. So I was doing about 20, 30 classes. So that took care of my weight gain problem. So I was doing more. And yeah, I then started doing a lot of supplements. And this ties into the next part. So super embarrassed, still seeing the chiro, like, let's not listen to the body, let's just do more. But I'm not as embarrassed, I'm more focused. I'll just do health and fitness, it'll get better. And I started doing a magnesium protocol. And back in the day, what was this, 2011, they had a product called Magnesium, Ubermag, and JavaStim. Car's not broken down yet. And I went from taking 2 caps, 4 caps, 8 caps, 12 caps, 16 caps of magnesium per day. So I wanted to like recover. And one day I was like, I'm going to double the dose. I'll take 8 at night time. And the JavaStim and magnesium. So JavaStim is supplement of coffee and magnesium relaxes you. JavaStim brings you up. And they were both red at the time. So it was a new product. And I ran out of mag. And I'm like, oh, my mate's got this red bottle. It's the same size. It's got to be mag. I took 8 of them. I was like, I'm going to be so chill. It's going to be great. And off I go. I'm like, walk up to the reception of the gym. We got 30 minutes before we lock up. My heart's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, I've hit optimal mag. Like, oh my God, I have so much energy. Is this what it feels like to be like relaxed? Oh, shut up, man. Anna's just laughing at me. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this is what I've been missing out on. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to do everyone's workouts. I start doing like this other guy's workout. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm doing pull-ups. I'm like, all right, I'll do pull-ups too. I'm like, all right, let's go. And then I'm like, okay, I'll run over. And I'm like, all right, what are you doing today? She's like, oh, I'm doing deadlifts. Oh, I'll do deadlifts too. All right, I'll do pull-ups. All right, I go back and do the pull-ups. And I run over. I'm like, wow, like, oh my God. Let me just look at that product. And I'm like, that's not how you spell Ubermag. My heart's still pounding. And I'm like, JavaStim. Oh, wow, that doesn't feel right. Put it down. JavaStim. Oh, it's like I've just had 16 shots of coffee. Oh. Ooh. And so I then go home and I'm literally laying in bed. I'm like, right, I have 7 hours, 32 minutes before I have to get up because I'm going to do an event. Okay, if I close my eyes right now, I will get 7 hours, 32 minutes sleep. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. No, that didn't work. Okay. And so I was up all night and shattered, just burnt. I literally was at an event, wasted the whole event, like didn't intake any information. I was just literally just a zombie. And I remember the guy going, if anyone's tired, please take this product called JavaStim. It is this. And this guy just oozed knowledge. And I was like, oh, bugger. Should have been here the day before. And he told me how to fix it. And I remember like when at this event, the knowledge he had, I was like, wow. You can just recall it. Like, why I struggle? Why is it so hard? And it was just then because like that's what I want to do. I want to be someone who has the knowledge, has the wisdom, has the guidance, and can help people, but can relate at different levels. And I was like, I have to work with him. And I remember walking up to him. He's like, I don't have time. I'm like, you need to make time. Like, I need help. I want to learn from you. And he then, like, at the end of the event, he's like, actually, one of my clients canceled. Like, what time is it? He's like, it's pretty early. It's like 6 a.m. I'm like, I don't care, I'll do it. He's like, oh, but it's going to cost, I don't care. Let's do it. And so, like, I'd had several experiences and was like, I need to do this. But the penny drop for me was to give everyone like a number. Like, I was 18, 19 years old. I was making about 150, 200 grand in a year. And I was like, I'm making bank. So I didn't really care what people had to say. I thought I was crushing life. But when you calculated the hours that I put in, the time, the investments, I worked out. So I just got into this coach and I worked out I was only making $7.32. So for the 1.5, 2 years, I was crushing it. I saw money in my account. I was like, great, let's keep going, spend it. And it was only when I started tracking my finances, like my dad's an accountant, so I was like, what does he know? And eventually learn it really quick, start tracking your numbers. And I literally remember sitting in an office and I was like, oh my God, I've worked so hard, and I've only made $7.32 per hour. Oh, crap.
Was that $7 per hour?
$7.32 per hour. And the minimum wage at that time for the job that I was in was like $18. And I was like, I'm working much less. So I had I've got to change. So I actually left all of the jobs amicably. I didn't burn everything down, but I went, I've got to go to the city. I've got to start fresh. I started working with that coach, started learning, started working in the gym, and started to really dictate what I wanted to do. And from that, which leads into the second one, was that I started working with other people, started bringing on coaches, building the business, and I started to let them affect me. Like, there was no real standard. So like, we do this with everyone, we greet them, we fist pump, we smile. Like, these are all the things we do now, but back then, like, people were swearing, cussing, slapping people on the calves, not the blue people, don't worry. But, like, I remember like one coach was like, stop being a fucking little bitch. Like, just fucking pick it up. Shut up. Like, we didn't have a standard. And so I would just go through waves of like, no, this is what we need to do. And then just be brought back down. This is what we can do, brought back down. So there was no true alignment across the company, across myself. And so I did go through another period of time where I just got lost. And like, I remember there were times where my partner, Kate, she put up with a lot, but I wasn't really listening in my relationship either. And it was only when we were at a courthouse, and I was admiring other people, but it was only when we were walking past the courthouse. And when we used to walk past the courthouse, I would have my phone in hand. I was just whatever my partner would say to me. But one day, it's like, oh, I really like this coach. And she's like, oh, I've had enough. Slaps the phone out of my hand. You step your game up. If you really want to be this person, you've got to stop this. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really rough. Like, she doesn't say that. She's like, I've been saying this for months. Oh, okay. So it was a tough realization, because I had to really reflect and go, well, who do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And what have I learned today, or what am I doing? So, and it was a really like all or nothing, because like I saw it and I was seeing other people crushing it. So I'm like, I've got to do that, but not going, oh, hang on, what have I done today? Like, I had a conversation with Kathy. We implemented this one thing. That's enough. Tomorrow, what's another thing you can do? Like, set that foundation. And sometimes it just starts with doing one thing. So is it getting me close to my purpose? No. Okay, well, what distracted me or deviated me? I sat in a cafe and I had 6 coffees. Okay, well, maybe coffee doesn't work for me. So starting to just reflect day to day. How am I doing? How am I going? Am I on the right track? No? Cool. that happens. Why did I do that? There was a really cute, like I saw a cute girl or a guy walk into that bar, and I went, I have to follow them. I'm only human.
Course correcting.
Yeah. So just giving yourself permission to be human. That was the biggest thing, is that. And so from that, like little tweaks, there are still moments where I'm like, whoa, but I now know that for me, I have to remove myself from the environment, sit, deep think, what am I doing? I know my biggest challenge for me is overstimulate. It can be coffee, it can be food. Kate will tell you hugs and kisses don't count, but so it could be something. But doing too much of one thing. So removing myself, like even audibles. Like recently I was doing about 3 hours of audibles and YouTube's learning, but I wasn't implementing or applying. So I was doing stuff, being probably distracted or procrastinating from maybe doing that one thing that I really need to do.
I think Paula has a question.
Steven?
Yeah, I do. I've got a question, Karl. Thank you so much for sharing. When you shared just then, like that you kind of paused and you're like, okay, I need to reflect. I need to take stock of where I'm at. What am I doing? Where's it leading me? What do I need to do differently? I think that this is like, we all know this, right? It's like common knowledge of like, take stock. Where are you? Where are you heading? Where do you want to be? We'll do something differently. What helped you to actually implement that? And to anyone watching or listening, what advice or what support or what kind of tip do you have for actually implementing, instead of thinking about doing something, instead of thinking about reflecting or thinking about pausing and taking stock and redirecting, course correcting, what tip do you have to actually implement that? Because, we think about change and we think about implementing, and then actually doing it, like, they say it's like 2% of the population implements. So what tips do you have with regard to that?
Yeah, great question. So number one would be have a close network of people. So like, who's the mentor? Who's that close friend? There's probably, I only see 2 people a week. So it was 4, but I feel like it was a bit too much. I've gone for 2. So they're the people that will be ruthless. Like Sean Cooper, we catch up, have a coffee once a month, once a fortnight. How have you been? What's going on? And just share. The other one is I have a business mentor. And it's like, where are your numbers? Where you're tracking? Where are you going? Like, are you on track for where you want to go? Personally, I have a team, and I ask them to just ask me the same question every time. Like, how are we tracking? How are we going? I fortunately have a guy who's very intuitive, super frustrating, Eddie Ram. When I'm at my worst, he just turns to me. So he doesn't do this any other time, but he'll go, how are you? Why? Like, worst time. So I know, like, when he's reaching out to me, something's up. But the one that I like now is I have an alarm on my phone. So 5:30, 11:30, 3:30, 6:30 goes off, and it asks me a question.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So I start my like 5:30 is like, be a savage, but focus on delegation to move forward. So I think about how to work with my team. Then 11:30, are you on track for the elite 20? So I want a team of elite trainers who want to help change the world and help impact 500 people's lives a week. And then the 6:30 is just like, reflect. How did you go? Any problems? Any changes? And then I write it down.
I love that, Karl, because I have a weekly that I learned from Paula, working with Paula. I've got in my calendar on every Sunday, I have what are your intentions for the week? And on every Friday, I have what are we celebrating? What have you done this week? What have you achieved? And I write those down in my success journal as well.
Yeah, it's great. And then the last one is Friday. What are 3 things that went well? Because I think a lot of the time we can be very critical. What 3 things that didn't go well, and what are 3 things to improve? And action on them.
Beautiful. Karl, tell us, how can people reach out to you best?
Yeah, so if you reach out to info@vitruvianhealth.com.au, you have access to us all, and you can just reach out to me on Facebook, message, and socials across all of them. Or reach out to Angel. She's my rockstar communications.
Thank you so much for sharing. One of the things that I picked up from your story was really that mismatch of the supplement that you were taking, and in that moment of burnout for you, where you were just so fatigued and so burnt out that you didn't know the difference really, and didn't take that split second time to reflect on, what am I actually taking? What am I actually putting in my body here? It was just go, 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 go at that point.
Unclear, unfocused, forgetful, spending way too much money on the wrong things.
Now, I want to introduce my spirituality coach, David, who is not with us here tonight because he is listening to his body, as he's actually lost his voice and had the flu. So David, I've dubbed him my spirituality coach. He actually started doing psychic readings, mediumship, and energy healings in 1997. David's background is a Bachelor of Counselling, Hypnosis, and Kinesiology, which contributed to his specialty in trauma release, addiction, and personal and psychic development. He has studied many more techniques and modalities to help and assist people to find their greatest potential, practicing various forms of energy work, clairvoyance, heart tone therapy, house and land clearing, animal healing, and communication, also working with past lives and past life readings. And I'm so sorry he can't be here tonight. He'll be watching the recording because he wants to learn from my coaches as well. And I thought it was so fitting. He called me up, he's got no voice, and I'm like, David, make yourself a cup of tea, listen to your body. And even leading up to this webinar, when we were getting the four of us together at that time, and this is one of the messages really that came through as we were sharing, is that self-care sometimes does look selfish, and ideally we can be proactive, and ideally we can predict when we need that break, but sometimes we learn along the way. And for David as well, he was like, I'm actually taking some time off. I'm rescheduling my clients. I'm going for a trip. I'll be away for the next, I think it was like 9 days. You won't be able to reach me on my phone. And so I feel like he's really just gone through a bit of a pattern here. And the physical body is breaking down. So he needs to give himself that time to rest and do the maintenance work. And I'm going to call him out now when he's watching the recording, because he actually did express interest into talking to me about his nutrition and his physical health, because that is that maintenance work that we can upkeep our body to make sure that we don't have a breakdown, right? Make sure that there's water, make sure that there's fuel, and oil, change the oil. So when David was sharing his story, burnout looked really bad for him. He experienced burnout multiple times, and he spoke about not being able to walk, not being able to speak, not being able to feed himself for about 6 weeks. And the way that he started to heal from this and replenish was actually going overseas. So his trip was a really chill time in Thailand. He was there for 6 weeks, but he also took on extra study during that time. He did a really intensive 10-day course, which made his burnout worse. And when he came back from Thailand, he came back to nothing. He had moved areas, changed jobs, and it took him about 6 to 9 months to really rebuild. And it took him up to 1.5 years to find his flow again. So I really want to emphasize that there's no time limit on this. It took David 1.5 years to really feel like himself again. Burnout, when it happens, it's real and it takes time. And looking back the early warning signs for David was being forgetful, double booking himself and overbooking himself, missing the fun stuff. And this is something that I mentioned as well, finding what makes me happy and what gives me joy. So missing that fun stuff is a warning sign for him now. Doubting himself. This was a big one. So he said that in that burnout, he was really doubting himself, doubting being able to do the sessions with his clients, doubting if he's good enough for that. And his emotions were flatlining. And he said that his sparkly was fading. He's this sparkly person, and that was just fading. So like I said, ideally we are being proactive, but sometimes taking care of yourself looks selfish, and we need to, as practitioners and business owners, sometimes rebook clients. And it's hard for us. Honestly, it's hard when we get there. And we just hope that our clients, and this has happened to me as well, where clients understand we're all human. And we get that empathy from you guys. And I just want to thank everybody for showing us the empathy as well. The other thing I really wanted to cover is the 3 types of burnout. And if you have pen and paper, this is something to jot down. Someone can put it in the chat. The 3 types of burnout are overload burnout. So overload burnout, you've just heard from myself and from Karl. That is overload burnout, where we're doing too much. There is under-challenged burnout. So we're actually not being challenged enough in our work. And there's neglect. Overload burnout, under-challenged burnout, and neglect. And neglect is about having no purpose. And the areas of life that are affected by burnout as a result, our relationships are affected. Our social relationships, our family relationships, our intimate relationships. Like I said, it cost me that relationship. It did. Our careers are affected. Our finances, our wealth, our physical health, our emotional health, our spiritual or mindset, our personal development, our joy, our hobbies. Burnout overflows into all these areas of our life. It may start with the overload in the occupational setting, but it definitely affects all areas. Finally, I want to introduce to you the absolutely beautiful, special, amazing Paula, the founder of PB Success Coaching, which stands for Paula Bernadic, but also PB Personal Best. Paula helps her clients overcome persistent blocks through world-class transformational one-on-one coaching, group mentoring, and live workshops. Paula supports her clients to reconnect deeply with their physical, mind, and energy body to live a life of purpose, passion, and fulfillment. A purpose empowerment coach, Paula supports women who are feeling stuck and disconnected from their purpose to lean into discomfort, embrace vulnerability, and fully reclaim their power. She's helped thousands of clients and mentees to get unstuck, embrace vulnerability, reconnect with misaligned resources, and live their best life. Working in private practice, high performance culture, government, and not-for-profit, Paula has worked in the psychological, mental health, education, and wellness space since 2004. She is passionate about supporting people from all walks of life to realize fully we always have choice. That is our superpower. If you follow me absolutely anywhere on Facebook or Instagram, you will know how much I share about the work that I've done with Paula over the last 18 months. We finished up in March this year. It has been an absolute pleasure, delight, transformative time of my life where I had no vision and no understanding and no purpose of where I was going. And I was not this vulnerable before. I totally blame Paula for this. take it away.
Hello. Oh, love your vulnerability. What an honor. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you everyone for being here. I really want to acknowledge Kathy and Karl for your really awesome, valuable shares. And I really love this kind of concept tonight, Kathy, that you've brought us all here, having people from such different walks of life with specialties in four very varying fields. And whilst David wasn't here live with us tonight, he brings so much value and insight and wisdom in a really different way. So Kathy, hands up to you for bringing us here together and collab in this collaboration. So thank you. Okay, so burnout to me, I too have had a few experiences of burnout in my 38 years. And I experience burnout as coming out of alignment, right? Coming out of integrity with who I am, with when I'm at my best. And that's different to all of us. To some people, when we're at our best, we're like gung-ho and we're getting heaps of shit done. To someone else, when we're at our best, it's when we're really peaceful and enjoying moments of silence. And so I'd love for you to all reflect, take a moment right now to reflect on when you're at your best, when you feel really great, when you're happy, when you feel fulfilled, when you feel powerful and strong and also really peaceful. What is it that you're experiencing? And perhaps type it in the chat if you feel to share. I know for me, while you're having a think, I know for me, when I'm in integrity, I'm pleasant, I'm lovely to be around. And when I'm not in integrity, I can be really bitchy. My poor fiance experiences this. Right. And that's a really good indication to me when I'm out of integrity is I start getting a bit narky and naggy and short-fused and frustrated and temperamental. I've got routines. I love nature. I love taking care of myself. I love having a beautiful home. Again, I know when I'm out of integrity with that, things start getting really messy. There's dust under the lounge. I'm not spending time in nature. I'm not taking care of myself. So it's really good for me to notice when I'm out of integrity and when I'm in integrity, and how can I actually bring some habits, some rituals, some practices, and perhaps routines to support me to be in integrity. Because it's like, live in integrity. It's a really great concept. But how do we actually do that when life gets really overwhelming, right? We've got work and we've got, if you like Karl and Kathy, 7,000 jobs and, 400 children and competing priorities and all the different stresses that we have now living in the modern society. So how do we manage that? When I experienced burnout, was only a few years ago, and I was working in a high-performance culture in a company where I was working like 60+ hours a week, and nothing I did was good enough. For my job, there was this motto: do better, be better, right? Do more, be more, and no matter how well I performed, no matter how well anyone performed, the response from management was always do better, be better. And there was never this real celebration of like, fuck, that is amazing. Let's celebrate that. And that's enough. And I reflect on how I allowed myself to get to a point where I took on other people's words, other people's expectations, and made them my own. Because so often with burnout, with trauma, with these kind of exhausted experiences, we always have choice. We always have the option to do the thing or not do the thing. We have the option to say yes and be the yes man or the yes woman to everyone, or to say, not now, that doesn't work for me. And I think it's really easy to point the finger and kind of put responsibility on someone else who has made me do better and be better and do more and be more. But at the end of the day, it was me who chose to live that way. So I was working 60+ hours. I was exhausted. I was eating shit all day. carbs and fat to make sure that my energy was high, because there was this high performance culture. I was exhausted. I wasn't moving my body. I was not sleeping very well. I was drinking. I was not really nice to my fiance. And, that's a really big indicator to me. I really value family and I really value relationships. And I think, wow, if the best people in my life and those most dear to me don't get the best of me, something needs to change. Why would I be giving the best of me to other people who aren't the most important to me? So, I wasn't really nice to him. I was having suicidal thoughts. I really didn't want to be here. I didn't see a way out of the exhaustion, the frustration, the worthlessness that I was experiencing. And looking back, whilst my employer, was not the ideal employer, I chose to stay there. I stayed in this job for 11 months, not so long, but I chose to stay there during those 11 months. And so on reflection, I love to consider, what in me chose to stay there? What in me enabled that experience that caused my burnout? It wasn't my boss. It wasn't something external to me that made me burn out. It was the choices that I made to eat shit, to not move my body, to not engage with nature, to not connect with my partner, to not sleep well, to not nurture myself, and to stay in essentially quite a toxic environment. And whilst it's really uncomfortable, right, it can be a little bit confrontational to go, God, wow, I'm responsible for this. When we take responsibility, when we realize that we are responsible, that gives us the power to do something about it. If I blame my boss and it's all their responsibility, right? Well, then they're the only ones who can change it. And that still leaves me in a really disempowered state. So taking responsibility to actually focus on what can I do to change this? And sometimes, experiencing burnout, I've experienced there's so much going on that creating change felt really overwhelming. And so what's really helped me is just I say this to my clients, what's the smallest shitty little step that you can take to create change? It might be going to bed 10 minutes earlier. It might be waking up after 4 snoozes instead of 10, right? What's the smallest little step that you can take that's super easy? Because when we create goals and then we've, made these big goals that are too hard and too much to bite off, we don't do them, right? We don't follow through, and then we actually lose trust in ourselves, and we prove to ourselves that we aren't going to do the thing that we set out to do. So creating really little, shitty little goals that are really easy to do, that ensure that we can do it and that we will do it and that we do it, builds self-trust. And that building of self-trust is a beautiful way of improving our self-efficacy, our belief in ourselves, our love for ourselves, and our sense of integrity. Self-trust. Yes, I've got myself a little block in my head right now. What I am also going to share is that I think that, in coaching, I know there's a few coaches in the room, we talk about being, right, and who we are being in our life. So often we focus on what we want to have, right? We focus on what we want to have or what we want to give, often to our children. I want to give all this stuff to my children. And so in order to give that, I've got to have it, right? What do I need to have in order to give? And so in order to have this, what do I need to do? Right? We're sort of backtracking. And what we need to do to create the results so that we can give, that's generally where we focus. What do I need to do? What do I need to do to change? What do I need to do to get different results? What do I need to do to achieve my goals? And most of us know what we need to do, right? Technology, the internet, like you can type anything in Google and you've got like 40,000 articles that will tell you what you need to do and the actions you need to take. So why is it that we know what we need to do and yet we're not achieving what we want to achieve? Or perhaps we are, but we could be doing it better or more efficiently. And so there's one step before the doing, and that's the being. Who do I need to be? How can I show up differently in my day, in my relationships, in my relationship with myself, in how I speak to myself, in my energy, and how I take care of myself? And so much of our society, there's been a little bit of a shift recently, and I do believe that we are having a bit of an evolution in Western culture. But, Western culture is built on this patriarchal, masculine, top-down triangle pyramid concept of there's a boss and we work under the boss. And there's always someone above us and someone below us. And part of that patriarchal culture is a do focus, right? Simply the difference between men and women's output. Women have menstrual cycles, and if anyone here is a woman and experiences menstruation or knows a woman who experiences menstruation, right, you know that we've got differences in our energy. Men generally can be more consistent, but women need to take into consideration differences in hormones, differences in energy. And men too, right? You might not get your period, but taking into consideration differences in energy and how can I be present with myself, present with my bodies, my physical body, my emotional body, my mental body, my energetic or spiritual body, and calibrate my output, what I'm doing, to meet my needs. And I talk about this a lot with my clients and in my programs, pausing to check in with our body, to check in with our energy, and to actually pause and take a breath of like, how am I feeling right now? Oh, fuck, I'm exhausted. I'm really thirsty. Oh my gosh, I haven't drunk a glass of water since this morning and it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. But when we constantly do, busy output, we forget to pause. And so it's like this irony of taking a step back so that we can propel forward more, pulling the arrow back so that it can propel forward even more. And pausing is not a dirty word, right? Pausing and stopping and taking a breath and checking in with ourselves is a really beautiful strategy. So simple to actually check in with like, where am I at? What do I need? And what's a shitty little shift that I can make that's going to support me to move forward? Kathy, I see your hand.
I'm so used to this from working with you, and I even put an S in the chat or share. When you were talking about female hormones, I thought, wow, yeah, this is exactly what I've been going through with my cycle being regulated again, and working with Karl and having been abstaining from caffeine for like 10 months and now reintroducing it. I've noticed that when I'm PMSing, yeah, my mood dips a lot and my motivation dips a lot. And I can now use my caffeine sensitivity to actually boost that back up. So that's another strategy that I use to help me get through that slump so it doesn't go any further, so that I stay consistent with my training and with my motivation. And I wouldn't be able to, if I didn't notice that about myself, if I wasn't tracking my hormones, if I wasn't tracking my mood, if I wasn't tracking my consistency with my training, I wouldn't have noticed that. So it's building that awareness, and that awareness, the tracking, but also needs for stopping and reflecting, like you said, like what is happening here? And then thinking about, okay, what can I do with this? What can I implement? What is that shitty little thing that I can do?
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. I'd love to share one other thing, and I love, Karl, how you shared in the chat that men have fluctuations in energy as well, right? Absolutely. It might be different to women's, but like it's we're humans. We're human beings. We're not machines, right? We've got all this AI stuff and chips in the brain, but it's like at the end of the day, we bleed and one day we die. And so checking in with our energy is really important. And sometimes it's physical energy, and sometimes it's emotional energy, and sometimes it's something that we don't actually understand. But there's a part of us, right? Some quantum, spiritual, energetic part of us that is out of alignment with our truth, similar to what Karl was sharing earlier about purpose. So really, really important to pause. The last thing I want to share is the importance of community. So again, right, modern day society, like it's really easy to just work if you work from home. Like I work from home. And so it'd be really easy for me to work and not get out and not be with people. And I can exercise from the gym that we've got set up in our garage, and we live on a mountain, so I can do heaps of exercise, and my partner does the shopping. And it's like, it's actually really convenient to become very isolated. And whilst we can be, successful machines with the output, we need community to heal, and we need community to thrive, right? It wasn't very long ago we were animals living in the bush, right? We're just glorified beasts with clothes and fancy technology, but we're creatures of community, and we're not like a shark meant to roam the seas by ourselves. So many studies throughout modern history have shown that when isolated, people function less effectively. People's immune systems deteriorate and are much weaker. People cope less resiliently to stress. There's a lot of power in community, and there's a lot of value in, in speaking our truth, in being heard, in experiencing validation, or in Karl's case, having someone kick our butt and hold us accountable, right? It's really important to have that community. And so that's been something that has helped me immensely. Living in Melbourne during COVID, it was really hard to connect with community, but I did. I had a coach and I had an online community. Moving back to Sydney has been really different because, people have moved and times are different, but just choosing to make the effort to create relationships, working with coaches, having some sort of mastermind, or if not, in consciously engaging in a group situation like that, going to a regular yoga class, going to the gym at the same time every day, so at least you're seeing the same people, going to the same cafe to get your coffee, or shopping at the same place so the checkout person is familiar. It's really important for us to have that sense of community and belonging, right? But belonging is our greatest need as humans, and I think it's really, really important in healing from burnout to bring our energy back to that state of homeostasis so that we can thrive. And that's all I got to say about that. Karl, you've got a question.
Sweet. Sorry, I may have missed it, but you were in this job for 11 months and do better, be better, but you chose to stay there, and like resonated, like we all make that choice. What was the turning point of that 11th month where you went, no, this needs to stop, as you said? Or to rephrase, when did you decide to pull back, take that moment to then propel forward?
Yeah, really cool. Thank you. I completely missed that part of my share. So thank you, Karl. So, it's really personal to me. I really value family. And my parents are migrants, and they came to Australia to check it out with one suitcase between them in the 70s, and they never left. And they've worked really, really, really hard with no support, and have built, a pretty comfortable life for my siblings and me. My parents are really generous in the sense that if you didn't know them, but you came across them and you needed something and you asked them, they would give it to you because it's just part of their value system. I say to a fault because I think that it's important to have some boundaries there. But they will literally give, a stranger the shirt off their own back. Now, when I was in that job, I was in a sales role, and I had more than doubled my salary in the first 3 months of working there. In terms of the sales. So I had brought in, within the first 3 months, more than 3 times my salary. And I asked for a pay rise or a bonus, and I got diddly squat. And that happened a few times. And at the 11-month mark, again, like I'd made 12 times my salary in sales. And I asked,
wow.
Right. Yeah, I'm good at sales. Anyone want a salesperson? Like, I would have hired me back then. And I asked for pay rise again, having been patient. And I was told that I clearly had issues with entitlement that I needed to heal. And there was clearly some trauma and what was the word? I can't remember the word, but it was something to do with entitlement and greed in my family lineage that I needed to clear. And that was just, that was the line, and it was crossed, something really close to me, which is my family. And, this person made a really
they went at your values. They went at your values.
They made a big statement, which, completely, it went against my values, but it was also, it couldn't be more opposite than the truth. And I just realized, fuck, what am I doing? I'm making these people money, and I don't think that they see me or value me or have any idea who I am, where I come from, what I'm about. And I don't, I choose not to do this anymore. And it's interesting that I stayed for 11 months. And, if I had my time again, I wouldn't stay for 11 months. But as you said earlier, Kathy, we experience the same thing over and over again until we learn the lesson. And I guess it took till then for me to learn that lesson and get the fuck out of there. And that's when I launched my business full time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And was it for you just really done that, you were done with the burnout and you were right on your mission, as you say, you realigned your energies, everything's back on track? Or
no. So I worked with a coach, and I doubled my monthly salary in 3 weeks of working with that coach. And then I realized, quite quickly that if I didn't make any money for 2 months, I was good to go. So that's when I resigned from that job. But no, I didn't. I wasn't good for quite some time, Karl. I was depleted. And if you've ever been on a holiday and, you're working so hard, you're just hanging out for that holiday, and you get to the holiday and then you get the flu or you get some sort of head cold. When we are go, and the system's like, fuck, I need to hold my shit together because we've got to go, and then we stop, the system kind of falls apart and lets go, and we can often get sick. It was a similar sort of experience. So I was sleeping about 16 hours a day. I was really tired, and I was, launching my business full time, but had so much doubt, questioning myself. Can I do this? Am I going to succeed? What if it fails? What if I can't maintain this level of, output? And it was a really psychological and mental and emotional journey for me that I healed from by listening to myself, by taking that rest, by being lazy and sleeping as much as I needed. I'd been powerlifting before that, I'd deadlifted 140 kilos, and I stopped. I went to the gym, but I did some light stuff. I went for walks and I was exercising, but I just really toned it back because I realized that my nervous system was exhausted and I needed to replenish. And so I didn't overexert myself. That's what I needed. It's not right for everyone. But that worked for me. And then, as Kathy was saying about experiencing joy, connecting back in with the things that brought me joy, the things that lit me up, the things that felt like my heart was expanded. I talk about this heart erection. It's like, oh my God, my heart's just bursting out of my chest because I feel so fulfilled and connected. And, for me, that's lots of things, community and spiritual practice and yoga and hiking and learning and music and movement. And there's lots of activities there. But yeah, really connecting with joy and taking the pressure off myself. I was just talking about this in coaching and group coaching this week about like how we think we should be and who made that rule. And we probably can create the results we're after by doing it a different way. Like I work from home and I'm wearing really nice slippers, right? Really nice, fluffy leopard print slippers. Kathy's got a blanket, right? So taking the pressure off how I thought I should. I'm a coach and I'm an empowerment coach and I'm sleeping 16 hours a day. What the hell? We're just taking that pressure off and listening to myself and really noticing the difference between like avoiding. I know, Kathy, you and I spoke about this in the past. The difference between checking out and resting because I was avoiding life because it was all too overwhelming, or checking out and resting because I'm not checking out, I'm actually replenishing the stores that had been depleted. And, we all have our own different levels of what avoidance is versus rest. And so again, just a practice of checking in with ourselves and being honest with ourselves. And if we're struggling with that, reaching out for support.
Yeah, right. Really pulling it back to probably what you really enjoyed and what makes you and have that energy to move forward. As you just said, to touch on all the thread of like being, who made that saying of being. What if, because you've been like, you were successful in this 11 months, you grew at 12x, and then you've gone and done it yourself. And obviously as you grow, are there any, and for most people here, like we're on a journey, we obviously have remnants of someone else's being. Like I work for someone and I embody that person, and then I go to be on my own, and it's like imposter syndrome. What did you have, or questions were you going through that maybe helped you overcome that to make sure it really is you being you yourself, your true self, so you can truly go forward for what you believe and not what someone else has put on you?
Yeah, nice. Good question. When I figure out the answer, I'll let you know.
Can I jump in?
You can. And I'd love to just share one thing. So go ahead, Kathy.
I was just thinking, for me, what was coming up is just vision, knowing yourself and having that greater vision of who you want to be, really. You don't have to be that person right now. You have to have the vision of that person. You have a clear picture of who she is. You're not going to become that person overnight. It's the little itty-bitty shitty steps that get you there. But without a clear picture of what you're moving towards, you can't create that. So really bringing them back to the vision.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so vision's super important, right? And then, Karl, you've asked, well, how do I know when that vision's my vision or if it's the vision of my mentor or my teacher or my guide? Checking in. And there's a really beautiful activity that I share with my clients that I'd love to share with you all, but I'm aware of time. So, like, would it be helpful if I do it now, or?
Of course.
Yeah.
So you can watch the recording. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So if anyone's got to go with time, thanks for being here. Lots of love. And Kathy's going to send an email out with how to get into contact if you would like to. So, I'm all about, as Kathy shared earlier, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. So how do we figure out, learn, experience, what is a fuck yes for me? Karl, as you've just asked, like, what's my fuck yes versus my coach or my mentor or my parents' fuck yes? And so it's really beautiful activity. I want you to think about something that is a statement that is true for you, that is always true and always has been and always will be true for you. So maybe a really controversial statement to make today in these times that we are experiencing. But for me, I am a woman is a fuck yes for me. I've always been a woman. I've always identified as a woman, and I know that I will in the future, right? But it's not for everyone. Maybe it's I am Australian, right? I've always been Australian, and even if I move somewhere else, I will always be Australian. So think about what a statement is for you. That's your fuck yes, right? So pop your hand up when you've got one. My man, Amy. Cool, Angela. Great, Kathy. All right. So you've got your fuck yes statement. And now think of a statement that is an absolute no for you. So it might be the opposite. It might be something else. A statement that always has been no. It always has not been true. It's not true now, and it never will be true for you. So for me, I am a man. I've never been a man. I will never be a man. I don't identify as a man. So for me, no, a no statement is I am a man. Because if I say, or if someone says to me, I am a man, immediately my body, my emotions, my mind is like, no, that's a no. So think about what is a fuck no for you, and pop your hand up when you've got your statement. And if you need some support, just type it in the chat and we can help you. Okay, so now the activity. So I want you to close your eyes down. If you're weird about being on screen, put your screen off, put your video off. Close your eyes down, connecting with your body. Just take a couple of deep breaths. Can help to sigh out, make some noise. You're all muted, so don't worry about making noise on the recording. And just connect with how you feel in your body. Notice any sensations. And now I want you to repeat your fuck yes statement, that first one that we went to, the statement that is true for you, that always has been and always will be true. I want you to repeat that and say it out loud. Say it out loud and notice what you feel in your body. As you say it out loud, notice what shifts in your body, what you see, what you tell yourself, where in your body you feel it, temperature, color, texture. Say that fuck yes statement. Noticing what you're feeling in your body. And now we're going to say statement number 2, the no statement, the statement that is not true. So repeating that statement number 2, that not true statement, repeating it out loud, repeating it out loud, repeating it out loud over and over, and noticing what you feel in your body. Noticing where you feel it, what you're thinking, what you're seeing, what you're telling yourself. Textures, colors, weightiness. Notice what you feel in your body. Notice what you tell yourself. And now go back to statement number 1, your fuck yes statement. Repeat that fuck yes statement. And notice what you feel in your body. And now repeat the no statement, the not true statement. And notice what you feel in your body. And you continue to oscillate between the fuck yes statement and the not true statement until you can differentiate what is your body's response. What's your thought response? What's your emotional response? What do you see differently? What do you feel differently when it's a fuck yes for you versus when it's a fuck no for you? So for me, when it's a yes, I feel full in my stomach, in my torso, from the base of my torso to my throat. I feel like there's a fullness, there's a warmth. When it's a fuck no, I feel empty and I feel cold and I feel dark and I feel hollow. That's something I've experienced. Might be similar for some people. It might be different. Kathy's shared for her a fuck yes is lightness, lifting up and a heart feeling. For her, a fuck no is heavy, weighed down, gut discomfort. So with that activity, and if anyone, if you've got questions, type them in the chat. If you're not sure, just keep practicing. It can help to say the fuck yes and then physically move into the fuck no and move back into the fuck yes and move back into the fuck no, and take your time to ask yourself, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I telling myself? What am I feeling in my body? To differentiate the differences. So then, Karl, back to your question, how do we know when it's our truth and our integrity versus the truth or the goal of our mentor or our coach or our parent? We're checking in. If I take this route, if I follow this course to create this result, how does that feel in my body? Is it synonymous with the fuck yes? Or is it synonymous with the no? Okay, what other options are there? How else could I proceed from this point? And if I did that and I got those results and that outcome, how would that feel for me as a fuck yes or a fuck no? That's one way. I'm really big on embodied practice. So often through trauma, we become disembodied and we're just, hanging out and living from our head, as opposed to living in our bodies. Our bodies are like giant antennas that are receiving and giving messages. And so when we can exist in our bodies and receive the information and the wisdom and the messages that our bodies have to share, like that is embodiment and that is integrity and that's successful empowerment. So I hope that's helpful. There's obviously 1,001 other ways to answer the question, but that's something that works for me and that I find works with my clients.
Paula, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love that you shared that activity. One of my favorites as well that I did with you in our coaching sessions. And interestingly for me, the fuck yes is, I'm much more clearer on how it feels now. I've always been clear on what a fuck no is, but the yes is just screaming at me now more than it was before. And that's a testimony to the work that I've done with you and how much I've gotten to know myself. And I've really enjoyed listening to you. It's like I got a coaching session from Paula tonight, like the good old days. I've missed you. I really appreciate you being with us here tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
You're so welcome. I'm going to type into the chat, Facebook, Instagram, email, website, if anyone wants to get in contact. And I am running a challenge 24th to the 28th of this month. It's a Monday to Friday. I'm going to be sharing on my socials, so feel free to send me a message or an email.
Challenge?
Challenge.
Is it the challenge?
I started working together.
It's going to be 2 years since I did the challenge. I was looking at this on the calendar. I'm so passionate about this challenge, how to find power through anxiety. It's changed the trajectory of my life. That's what I'll leave it at, as I'm so excited to help you promote that as well.
Awesome.
In the chat. I'm just going to finish up letting people know that I will be sending out an e-newsletter. And that e-newsletter, given you signed up for the live tonight, you will get the recording. You will also get a ebook that with some activities, so some highlights from tonight and some journal prompts if you want to go through them. Even just reading the journal prompts will give your brain, you'll be thinking about it and you'll be thinking about making improvements in those things and your learnings that you have from tonight as well. I also really want to encourage you to go check out David M. John. He has a Facebook page where he shares his weekly messages from Spirit on a Sunday or a Monday. I'll put that in the e-newsletter as well. Given that he wasn't here with us tonight, you might want to go and see what he's all about and what his sparkly is. Go see him when he's sparkly. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat box now or email me email us. And have a lovely rest of your evening. Rest up, drink lots of water, get plenty of sleep tonight, and all those things.
Awesome. Thank you. And before we all leave, I just want to say, Kathy, once again, thank you so much for organising tonight, for bringing us all together, for collating this really wonderful event. It wouldn't have been possible without you. So thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
You're welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for joining the episode of Table Talk today. We hope you found some helpful tips and inspiration in staying healthy and fit, even with a busy schedule. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then, keep prioritizing yourself, your health, your fitness, and we'll see you on the next Table Talk.